Okay, I'd like to start this video off by saying I am not a financial advisor. Should you choose to invest in crypto or any other asset, be sure to do your own research or seek the advice of an actual financial advisor. Also, I am running on no sleep, so if I fuck this up, don't be surprised. Starting off on a daily here, we do seem to have some bearish indications. For example, we are overbought, and the MACD on the daily seems to be converging bearish. But just because it does seem to be doing that doesn't mean that it in fact will. It depends on what we do over the next day or two here. As you all know, in order for us to get anywhere, actually in order for us to make sure this reversal is technically complete, we need to get above the 200 daily moving average. And back on the MACD here, we are up. We're around 400 right here. Just because we're about to converge bearish at the 400 level doesn't mean we will, and we can actually go much higher than that. And I'll show you a good example of that real quick. If we go back to right here, the beginning of this major downtrend, right when we hit just before 13,000, 14,000, we were actually in the 1,000 area on the MACD. So we were actually it converged bears at more than twice the height where it currently is now. So I wanted to point that out. And yeah, so all right. Now going out to the weekly, you'll see that it is a completely different story. We are in fact crossing bullish on the MACD. The RSI strength is kind of neutral, so it's got room to move. The stock RSI is starting to go towards the overbought area, but it's nothing to worry about right now. So as you can see, we got stopped out by this resistance up here, and then we came back down, and we are actually right on this trend line here. So yeah, weekly, if I'd have to say anything about the weekly chart, the weekly chart is mostly bullish because of mainly because of the MACD being converging bullish, and every time the MACD has converged bullish on the weekly chart, there was a decent run afterwards. Like, for example, back in 2019, we converged bullish and we went up to 13,000, 14,000. Of course, the time before that was the run to 20K. Actually, there was a small bullish cross here during the bear market of 2018, but it ended up just running parallel, then crossing bearish again. So that wasn't really a good buy signal. Now we are going to go to the 4-hour. Okay, now on the 4-hour, as you can see, after we had this dump, after rejecting off the 200 daily moving average, we did manage to find support on the 50 exponential moving average, which in this case is the 200-hour exponential moving average. And of course, in order to find that is where we are on the 4-hour, so we take that times 50, and that gives us the 200-hour exponential moving average. So we seem to be hitting resistance here. This may turn into a bear flag, and we might break down further. But if we do, I do not see us going any lower than this resistance rate, or this support right here, because this is the 8,000 area where we had the most volume traded out of the last year, and so that's a major support area. So I don't see us going below that. So if we do go down, that is as far down as we are going to go. But the other scenario is we break back above this and we go on for another test of the 200 daily moving average. And the reason why we would probably break back up from here is, as I mentioned before, we have a CME futures gap that we still need to fill right here. And yes, I know they are not required to be filled, but all throughout Bitcoin's history, Bitcoin has seemed to always manage to fill the gaps. And we have all of them filled except for one that's all the way up at $11,000 at the $11,000 area. So it just remains to be seen. As far as the stock RSI goes on the 4-hour, we are oversold. The regular RSI is neutral, and MACD is kind of bearish, but as you can see, it is starting to converge bullish down here. So that's a good sign. But so to recap, we could either, well, actually there's a third scenario. We just trade sideways for a little while longer, and then we either do one or the other. I mean, yes, I know it's kind of obvious that it's either we go up or down, obviously, but in the short term, I wouldn't worry too much, especially if you're dollar cost averaging. If you're dollar cost averaging, either you can DCA in right now and hope that this is a dip that we are currently in, or you can wait to see what happens to see if we drop down and either land on this resistance or sorry, support. I told you I told you I had no sleep last night, so if I fuck up, I fuck up. We can either stop here or we'll stop here, but we will not go any lower than here. I personally don't think we will go any lower than there. If we do manage to break below this support here, that's probably bad news, and we will likely go a lot further down if we do. So let's try to stay above that. But on the plus side is, if the fact that it's going to be really tough to get below here, the top of that downtrend is actually below the $8,000 area. So chances of us actually falling back into that downtrend are very, very, very slim. Now, we were on an uptrend for a little while here, so having a little bit of a pullback, that's nothing to worry about. It's natural for those to happen. This was a whale taking profits followed by a couple liquidations. That's what happened right there, and that's what brought us down to the current area that we are at. So yeah. I gotta say something else here. If you're trying to trade this, don't go entering a position now. And I'm not talking about the dollar cost averaging either. I'm talking about either longing or shorting. Don't go entering a position while we are floating around in this area, because of the fact that it could go either way. You don't want to like jump in it long and then this end up going down and you getting stopped out, or you don't want to go jumping in a short and this end up going up and you get stopped out. I've heard so many things about this, people not using their stop losses. Anytime you enter a long or a short position, always use a stop loss. Always. There's no reason to enter a trade without a stop loss. If you go into a short position and you don't have a stop loss set and Bitcoin skyrockets, I don't know what kind of exchange you're using, but that's a good way to either just get liquidated, or even worse, fall in debt and have a margin call. I don't know. I know some exchanges will just close the account, close the position out to avoid those losses happening. But other platforms, they will make you pay for the entire loss, and that is not anything that you want to be fucking with. So always, and I mean always, use a stop loss. Okay, I think I got the point across. Alright, there is one more thing that I have to point out before I go. This is more of a midterm prediction, but take this with a grain of salt, but this is kind of what I see happening. Since we are closing in on the halving, and yes, I know that's the wrong date. I think that the halving is actually a little bit earlier in the month, but anyways, since we are approaching the halving, we are likely to have a front running of this halving, and it's probably going to be something around, we may end up in the $12,000 area, $13,000 area, $14,000 area, or $15,000 area. That's where I see us going. And then a little bit after the halving, there may be some profit taking, so expect a bit of a crash. And yeah, because the theory behind this, I did a video not too long ago, and I mentioned people comparing the Litecoin halving with the Bitcoin halving, and how they were impatient about it, because if they were trying to compare the Litecoin halving with the Bitcoin halving, they should have stayed in their positions for a whole year to a year and a half, because the Bitcoin halving, as you all know, takes a year and a half or so to play out. Yet people front run the Litecoin halving, ran it all the way up to $111, and then immediately after the halving, it went straight into a bear market, and people just started selling. I don't know if they were just expecting it to moon immediately, or if that is the case, if those same people are coming into this market, not doing their research, they're likely going to get it, likely going to buy in, and then when they realize that the halving happens and we don't immediately moon, we may crash. I don't see us crashing too far. I don't see us crashing, and at that point, the legacy trend line will be around the $9,000, $10,000 area. So I don't see us crashing below that in that area. But yeah, do keep that in mind. If people go in with that same mindset that they did with Litecoin to the Bitcoin halving, there may be a bit of a crash immediately after the halving. So it may not happen. It may not happen. We may just ride along this trend line here and slowly make gains up and towards the halving, and then just keep going up. But personally, I see a front running happening, and we make it up between $12,000 and $15,000, followed by a slight crash, and then we push on. That's what I see happening. Alright, I think that is all I have for you guys. I will see you all next time.